years when God had the prophetess Deborah motivate Judge Barak to take action. Barak assembled 10,000 men on Mount Tabor and was ready to engage in battle with Jabin's military chief Sisera, who entered the torrent valley of Kishon with his army and its 900 war chariots. When the Israelites marched into the valley plain, God caused a flash flood that turned the battlefield into a quagmire and immobilized the Canaanite chariots. Barak's men prevailed, and all the camp of Sisera fell by the edge of the sword. Sisera himself sought refuge in the tent of Jael, but she killed him while he slept. In line with Deborah's prophetic words to Barak, the beautifying thing of this victory went to the woman Jael. Because Deborah, Barak, and Jael acted courageously, Israel had no further disturbance for 40 years. Many godly men and women have displayed similar faith and courage.
Okay, paragraph 9 now. How did Deborah, Barak, and Jael show courage? How did they do this? Brother Lataraka.
We have to remember that Israel was under oppression at this time for about 20 years by Jabin. So here was this force coming against them, and it would be kind of scary for them to think that they would be able to beat them down. So it took real courage and faith now on their part to go ahead and undertake this.
Yes, very good. Thank you for mentioning that faith and courage. You can have courage and you don't have the faith placed in Jehovah. It kind of never ends up successful, but that certainly has to be a coupling effect with those two aspects of our worship, faith and courage. Brother Soto, please.
Yes, and to go along with the brother, we also have to remember that God had the prophecies Deborah motivated and used Judge Barak to take action against them.
That's very good, thank you. And then we have one more, Sister Rayner, please.
And that really took courage on Jael's part. In the account it reads how she gave him some milk to drink. Maybe that deadened his senses a little bit. But then she proceeded to drive the stake into his head. And she was able to make it so that eventually, because of Deborah, Barak, and Jael, Israel had no further disturbance for 40 years. That must have been a blessing too.
Yes, very good. Did you pick up on her eyes in this particular paragraph? Take a look at her eyes. It's really interesting there. Sister DeBell, please.
In the photo, looks like she's giving him the milk and eyeing the stake and the mallet that she eventually uses to kill him. But I thought it was interesting that they mentioned it was because Barak really had a little bit of a lack of faith there, because Deborah told him what to do, and he said, well, only if you come with me will I do it. Otherwise I won't go. So that's when she told him that he would not be the one to actually get the full victory, because he would not be the one to kill Sisera. So we can see that sometimes we don't always want to do what we're told to do, but Jehovah always makes it come out to his advantage.
Yeah, it's very good. Have you ever read a hotel where you see a mallet, steak, and warm milk? Don't book the room. Okay, all right. So, very good. So that's courage on their part, isn't it? Okay, let's now go on to paragraph 10, the subheadings.
Our words can inspire courage. What we say can inspire courage in fellow worshippers of Jehovah. In the 11th century BCE, King David told his son Solomon, "Be courageous and strong, and act. Do not be afraid nor be terrified, for Jehovah God, my God, is with you. He he will not desert you or leave you until all the work of the service of Jehovah's house is finished. Solomon acted courageously and built the splendid temple of Jehovah in Jerusalem.
Okay, paragraph 10 now. Why can't it be said that our words can inspire courage? Find an example here in the paragraph. Sister Deach, please.
We can see that when David spoke to Solomon about this huge task that Solomon was going to have, this huge privilege, that David spoke from his heart and he spoke from his own experience in life, his personal relationship with Jehovah. He even referred to Jehovah as my God. And we think of all the things that David had gone through in his life, even though there were a couple times when he was unfaithful. His life was really centered around Jehovah. And we can see when he said to Solomon that Jehovah would not desert him, he would not leave him, David really could look back on his own life and speak those words from his heart.
That's very good. Thank you. Sister Bonner, please.
And we know that originally David wanted to build the temple, but he didn't have that privilege, and Solomon did. But even though he wasn't able to do that, he was able to help Solomon to be courageous and strong. And in the same way, we might not always be able to do more in Jehovah's service, but by our words of courage, we can really help others too, and it might give them the strength they need to be able to do it.
That's very good. Thank you. So this really, you think about just maybe building, constructing something as opposed to going out in battle. Courage was needed because who laid out every bit of the detail? It had to be followed exactly. Sister Morris, please.
We know that came from Jehovah. We also know from the scriptures the talent that it took to actually get this work done. It took trades that people didn't even know how to do yet, but Jehovah's Holy Spirit taught them and helped and organized the work, and this took a lot of courage to undertake such a project.
Yes, imagine that you've been given an assignment to build the Colony Mall. You don't know anything about any trades. It's a task, isn't it? Okay, let's look at our next paragraph, please, paragraph 11.
In the 10th century BCE, the courageous words of an Israelite girl proved to be a blessing for a leper. She had been captured by a marauding band and became a servant of the leprous Syrian army chief Naaman. Having learned about miracles that Jehovah performed through Elisha, she told Naaman's wife that if her husband would go to Israel, God's prophet would cure him. Naaman did go to Israel, was miraculously healed, and became a worshiper of Jehovah. If you are a young person who loves God, as that girl did, He can give you courage to witness to teachers, fellow students, and others.
Okay, paragraph 11 now. What effect did the courageous words of an Israelite girl have on one man's life? Let's have, please, this person sitting next to Tony, and if you can give me your name, please. Hopefully it's not a tough one.
Patricia Street.
Okay, thank you, Patricia.
This girl ended up changing his faith as well.
Yes, very good, thank you. And how does she recommend this here? Brother Tufts, please.
The story for this kind of goes, this Naaman being the chief of an army, was a leader of a marauder band which they had taken captive this little girl, and perhaps captive their family, perhaps put her family members to death, but here she finds herself in the house of an official. And when she learns that Naaman is suffering, she suggests to his wife that she knows of a prophet that would cure her husband's disease. And so he goes off to do just such a thing, and, well, the story goes on.
That's very good. Thank you, Brother Tufts. And since we're on the side, please, Brother Rayner. Tim Rayner, please.
And you know, she really had to have strong faith, because if that didn't work, he would have came back and after all that effort that he put through it, you know, and probably had her killed. She knew this was going to work, though. And so, one thing that I got from this paragraph, though, is that our youth in the congregation, that sometimes they can say something to an adult. As an adult, we could say the same thing, try and give a witness, and the person wouldn't listen. But when it comes from our youth, and they see their strong faith, then they have a listening ear, and it can really accomplish great things.
That's very good. Thank you. Sister Soto, please.
Yes, you never know who's going to hear you out. Last week I was trying to make a reservation for my parents, and I'm trying to work with the airline, and it was a problem, but this young man was trying to help me, and he just guided me through the computer. And after he helped me so much, I said to him, "You're so nice and so caring for people." He says, "Well, that's my job." And he says, "Well, can I help you in anything else?" I said, "Well, maybe, how about if you open the door to the Jehovah's Witnesses? They're really, we're here to say the truth, and you can learn so much." He says, "Really? Are you sure?" So I know that maybe he was visited before, and he wanted to make sure that, we were saying the truth, or I don't know.
Yes, I think you never can tell. It will have an effect on his heart, I'm sure. Okay. Sister DeBell, please.
I really found this very interesting, because I don't know if I ever realized this before, but it mentioned that actually Naaman became a worshiper of Jehovah. And I don't think I ever remember seeing that before. But in verse 17 of 2 Kings, it mentions here, it says, finally Naaman said, "If not, please, let there be given to your servant some ground, a pair of mules, because your servant will no more render up a burnt offering or a sacrifice to any other gods but to Jehovah." And I don't think I've ever
every Sunday
read that and really took that to understand that from that time on he worshipped God.
That's very good. Thank you. Okay, so words can incite courage. Let's now go on to our next paragraph, please. Paragraph 12.
Well-chosen words in times of peril can inspire courage. When the Assyrians marched against Jerusalem in the 8th century BCE, King Hezekiah told his subjects, "Be courageous and strong. Do not be afraid, nor be terrified because of the king of Assyria, and on account of all the crowd that is with him. For with us there are more than there are with him. With him there is an arm of flesh, but with us there is Jehovah, our God, to help us and fight our battles." How was that expression received? Why, the people began to brace themselves upon the words of Hezekiah. Similar words may bolster our own courage and that of other Christians when we are being hounded by persecutors.
Okay, paragraph 12 now. How did the words of King Hezekiah affect his subjects? Sister Rayner, please.
Well, he told them to be courageous and strong, and he said that their enemies had an arm of flesh, but with us there is Jehovah our God to help us and to fight our battles. So when the people heard that, when they began to brace themselves upon the words of Hezekiah, and so that really bolstered their courage.
Sister Bonner, please.